Hi everyone, I'm EJ Anderson, the long haul truck blogger, also known as the happiest, kindest trucker on the road. Welcome to White Glove Trucking, my channel dedicated to helping you use trucking as a vehicle to live your best life. Now, you're not using trucking to live your best life if the whole time you're on the road, you're lonely. One of the best things about travel is the people you meet and the moments you share with them. You know, I tell you guys I'm the happiest, kindest trucker on the road, but I haven't always been able to connect with people. And it's taken a lot of work to get to the point where I can say that I can do that. In this video, I'm going to tell you how to make meaningful connections with the people you meet on the road and about the long road I took to learn how to do this. When I was growing up, I was a very sensitive and perceptive kid. I cared so much about what other people thought of me. So it wasn't very long before I realized that people were judging the way that I was acting, the way that I was talking, and not always in a good way. So while most other kids were reading children's books, I started reading Emily Post etiquette manuals. While they were learning basic table manners, here I was, this little black kid, teaching myself how to work from the outside in when using the utensils at a formal dinner. Now, take this little black kid and fast forward to high school in Richmond, Virginia, where my first high school was named the Lee Davis Confederates. And I soon became hypersensitive to the way all the white people around me were perceiving me because I became aware of all the negative stereotypes. So then I became obsessed with avoiding and reversing these perceptions. I determined that I never wanted to be stereotyped or viewed negatively. As it turned out, the Emily Post obsession had just been the beginning. Now that I was older, I learned to adapt my behavior to avoid negative stereotypes and perceptions. I learned country songs and sang them as I walked into places. I would cross the street if a white person was approaching so that they wouldn't have to be afraid or that they wouldn't have to cross the street themselves. My eyes never missed an unattended purse, and I made it a point to obviously avoid them. Another symptom of being this way is I was always on high alert, looking for any signs of racism that could justify my fears. If the salesperson treated the white person in front of me differently, smiling at them, but then no smile for me, I took it personal. Every time I heard a chirp of a vehicle being locked when I walked by, every purse being shifted to the other side of the body with an arm draped over it, every patting of a wallet in a back pocket as I walked behind, all these felt like personal accusations. You know, ironically, my hyper-awareness and my obsessiveness to avoid suspicion actually often caused the very suspicions I was trying to avoid, creating a cycle I didn't even realize at the time. When I stared at purses to avoid them, people would see me staring at them and think the exact thing I was trying to prevent. The same goes for anticipating that someone will be racist. I wasn't aware of it, but there is such a different vibe that I have when I walk into a place intensely analyzing the clerks, every action, every facial expression to see if I can catch any slight versus just walking in, smiling, confidently, expecting a pleasant interaction. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It took me way too long to figure this out and to proactively create the perception I wanted others to have of me by being the one to take control of the interaction, not giving them a chance to stereotype me, and not giving them a chance to judge me. But I'm skipping ahead. To make these changes and get to this point, I first needed to decide what was the thing that was most important to me. See, the problem with trying to make people feel safe is that it doesn't promote genuine connection. It's more moving away from rather than moving towards. So my behaviors, I began to realize, were more about avoiding, shrinking away, and retreating, and not about connecting. And eventually I just reached a point where I really wanted to better connect with people. I recently heard a quote from the singer Jewel that deeply resonated with me. She was talking about getting over her fear to be able to connect. And after I heard her say this quote, without thinking, without missing a beat, I actually said this out loud, seemingly out of nowhere. She said she had learned this lesson when her desire to connect became stronger than her desire to feel safe. And then I said, when my desire to connect became stronger than my desire to make white people feel safe. So once I shifted to this desire to connect, I now had to do the work to combat my tendencies to worry too much about what people were thinking of me and my tendency of taking things too personal. So along the way, I created mantras. These mantras became my way to fight my natural tendencies and give me the courage to connect. I would just constantly say them or sing them as I walked around engaging with people. Now, my first set of mantras were designed to make me feel better when I felt like I had been judged or perceived negatively. They helped to lessen the hurt. But eventually, I reached a place where I felt more confident in who I was and what I had to offer the world. These later mantras were less about shielding myself from pain and more about being vulnerable and offering help to others. This first mantra was the only one I didn't create myself. This came from a guy who saw that I was trying to better connect with people, but that he recognized my pain when I tried it and it didn't work. He said, whenever that happens, just think they're just not your people. This was meant to help me feel better when I felt rejected. The idea was that if someone saw me as a threat or someone to guard against, then they just weren't my people. While this mantra did offer some relief, it felt more like a band-aid, like after the fact, and I wanted something more proactive. So with this next mantra, I started experimenting with replacing my negative self-talk with positive self-talk so I could kind of flip my mindset. Instead of assuming that people were having negative thoughts towards me, I just began to imagine they were thinking positive ones. So I would tell myself, I'm interesting. They're intrigued. She thinks I'm attractive. She wants to have sex with me. Now, I know this might sound a little weird, but it does help. I was much more confident when I assumed that someone found me intriguing or they desired me, compared to when I was assuming they were either scared of me or repulsed by me. I reasoned that people who are repulsed will stay repulsed. But by assuming that everyone is repulsed, I'm missing out on those people that actually did want to engage with me. Next, I developed a mantra that I could use when I thought I sensed that somebody was judging me negatively, but I didn't want that to stop me from trying to connect. So the first part of this one, if you fear me, it's your history, means that it's not me personally they fear. They don't even know me. It's whatever conditioning they have had up to that point. And the second part, check and connect, means for me to check myself and whatever negative thoughts I'm having and try to connect instead. Now this one started off, if you fear me, it's your history. So check and connect. But I made a little song about it. So I kind of changed it because it kind of flowed better in the song. And it became, it's not me, it's your history. So check and connect. So I would just sing that song around as I was walking around. And it would just help me keep my mindset right as I was engaging with people. And then finally, it became less about worrying how I was perceived and more about just trying to help people in whatever way I can and whatever way they need. So the transformation that kind of birthed this mantra, it happened in an unlikely place and it was brought on by an unlikely source. I was working as a customer service representative for the IRS. I got this brother on the line. I'm just going to call him my hood brother. This guy was so combative right from the start. I mean, you couldn't start with the worst energy to make somebody least likely want to help you. I remember thinking, how does anybody expect to get help with an attitude like that? But then I recalled my own struggles. And I vowed at that moment that no matter what kind of energy this brother gave me, I was going to give him my absolute best service that I could. I was thinking, hey, if I don't help this brother, who would? So he was so wary at first. He wasn't being truthful. It took him so long to sort of realize that somebody could genuinely be wanting to help him. But I finally sensed that he was starting to trust me and that we were making a real connection. And that he was starting to tell me the truth so that I could actually really help him. We talked for a long time. And in the end, I was able to give him information that would greatly increase his refund. But I had also given him some overall just life and money lessons too. Now, at the end of that conversation, that guy was so appreciative. Of course, he only said, I appreciate you. But I knew from that conversation we had had, in those 3 words, what he was truly saying was, no one in my life has ever treated me like that. No one has ever respected and cared for my concern like that. It felt so good helping him. It felt good helping someone who needed it most, and it felt good earning that appreciation from somebody who was least likely to give it. I felt like I had been a light that had shone on this person's lead exterior and revealed the gold within. The gold being this deepest, most meaningful connection with people. There's a quote that says, "Our greatest challenges are where we have the most to give." I have adapted that to be, our greatest challenges are where we can find the most gold. So, to sum all this up, to never be lonely on the road of life, just strive to help people. And if you are able to help those most in need because no one else will, that's where you will be rewarded with the greatest of gold. I hope you find at least one of these mantras helpful in your quest for connection out on the road. Thanks for watching.